Today, we are going to be learning how to make a witch hat. But not this one, because this one's a year old and from when I was in the journeyman category. I'm now in the master category and I need another witch hat, but not this one. I still love this hat. I will put it on to show you exactly why I like it too. So, this was the first and only witch hat I've made, and I made it for my magical girl, Kirby, which I'll throw a photo up right over here so you can kind of see what that looks like if you haven't seen it. Why am I not using this as an example of a witch hat? It's because it was the first one I made, and there was a lot of things wrong with it. So the seams, as you can see, are not completely lined up. They're cattywampus, they're popping open in spaces. I did not have a heat gun. I did not use contact cement, I used super glue, and I didn't prime my area before I did anything to it. So, needless to say, those are some other things that are wrong with it. I basically need to make this witch hat, but better and on a larger scale, for Meiko from Party Party. So, let's get started. Hi, we're in my living room now, because I don't have anywhere else that will hold this much foam. What I did was I basically took the measurements of my original magical girl hat for Kirby, and I'm basically just gonna put them on a way bigger scale. So the entire round of Kirby's hat was around 32 inches. I'm gonna bump that up to about 36. And when I measured Kirby's hat, it was a little bit big because there was fabric around it. Basically, the thickest part of the hat is gonna be 36 inches around circumference. I failed math in high school. That's what we're gonna be doing, is basically just taking 36 and dividing it by 2, which is 18. So yeah, each side of my hat was going to be about 18 inches wide and 20 inches long. So I patterned that on a piece of paper, drew out the shape I wanted, and then I had the shape. Went ahead and cut that out of foam, and then once it was cut out of foam, I began sanding. I cannot stress this enough, but please sand your EVA foam. It helps get you a smoother edge, it helps contact be tighter. Overall, it is just the best thing to do. If you're doing a prop or hat like this, you can go ahead and hand sand it like I'm doing here. If you have a Dremel, it's much easier and quicker, but my Dremel is out of commission right now. Now that everything is sanded, it is time to assemble the hat. To glue the seams of the hat together, I use this really cool thing called contact cement. Contact cement is highly toxic, so make sure you wear a mask and you go in a well-ventilated area of some sort. Now, once you're outside, here's how you use contact cement. Your cement will come with a brush applicator. You will take a small bit of that and put it on the seams of the EVA foam. After you've applied a good coat, you have to wait more than 15 minutes, but no more than 2 hours until it becomes glossy and slightly sticky to the touch. I find that 30 minutes is the sweet spot for me personally, so after about 30 minutes, I go ahead and I'll push these seams together. After fully assembled, I take my heat gun to the final product to shape it the way I want. Heat guns can produce toxic fumes, so they should be used in a well-ventilated area. Now, I go ahead and sand my seams just to get excess contact cement off. You don't necessarily have to do this if there isn't a lot, or if you got really clean seams, or if you plan on using multiple layers of quick seal. But for me, I just wanted a little bit of a cleaner look, and I didn't want to use a bunch of quick seal, so I did a light sanding. Now it's time for quick seal, which is going to fill in your gaps. You just take a little bit and rub it along the seams. Now, quick seal needs to be used in a well-ventilated area and should not be used on your hand for prolonged periods of times, because guess what? It is also toxic. This not only smooths out your seams and make the hat look a little more cohesive, but it also gets rid of a lot of bumpiness and possible gaps. I also added quick seal where the actual hat and the brim meet. Now this part's going to be hidden for me, so I really didn't have to do this, but if this is going to be showing for you, I highly recommend you do it. If it's going to be hidden like mine, I guess you don't have to, but it still gives an overall more cohesive, smoother, and cleaner look. I went ahead and let my hat dry overnight, and then we got to Plasti Dip it. And guess what? When using Plasti Dip, it is, you guessed it, toxic. So you have to work outside in a well-ventilated area. You'll want to stand a few feet away and give your hat a nice, thick Coating. I went ahead and did 3 coats. Each coat takes about 30 minutes to dry, so this was basically an all-day thing. After the Plasti Dip is set, you are done. Now, what Past Teacup didn't know was that she was going to hate the paint job on this and end up just covering it in fabric. If you want to paint your foam hat, please don't listen to me, but if you're going to cover it in fabric, listen up. Hi, it's me. If you were just watching this video to figure out how to make a witch hat, you're done. You can leave. Because from this point forward, it's just paint it however you want. Do whatever you want to do to it. I don't care, right? But if you want to see specifically how I made this hat, or some techniques to painting a hat, or how to add details onto a hat, things like that, you can stay. So I'm going to throw up these 2 pictures specifically to show you just how big this hat is. This photo shows it's like the size of her torso, and this photo shows just how huge the brim is. Now, another thing about the bottom of this hat is that it is a black and blue shift, and there's a few photos that show it. And then it's got these stars on it, while the top is completely purple, and it's got this beading and this big old rose flower, whatever you want to call it. Now, for the bottom brim, it's got this blue to black shift, and I did not want to mess with any kind of shift paint. I've messed with shift paint in the past. I don't really care for it. So I just went with a flat navy blue because I figured navy blue is kind of like, if you view it in sunlight, it's probably going to look more blue. If you view it in like a regular room, it's probably going to look more black, and I'll kind of still get that shift. Now for the stars, I thought I could just take a white paintbrush and do the flick technique where you flick the white specks onto it and it looks like stars, right? I could do that. I went ahead and got this bluish purple holographic vinyl that I'm going to go ahead and cut out into little diamonds and then just use my heat gun to put on there, because I thought that would kind of make a more cohesive look and be a little bit more fun. Anyway, just wanted to give a quick breakdown of what is going to go on for the rest of this video. So let's get back to the hat construction. Now, when it comes to EVA foam, people have different theories on the best way to paint. Some people say acrylic paint is the way to go. Others claim spray paint, and some say you should use an airbrush. A couple friends of mine recommended using acrylic paint since it worked for them, but the problem was that after all 4 layers had set, there were very large, noticeable brush strokes. So I frantically went to Instagram and asked my followers, what the heck should I do? People advised me to thin out the paint and paint the opposite way of the brush strokes, as that may neutralize it. So I gave it a try. And I ended up hating it, so I did the thing that I told myself I absolutely was not going to do when I started this project, and decided to cover the entire hat in fabric. This was relatively easy, as I just traced the foam pattern that I had made for the hat onto some excess fabric that I had of the correct shade. After that, I sewed the point to the top brim of the hat, and then I went ahead and cut out the bottom brim out of the navy blue, and I went ahead and did a ladder stitch all around the brim. This was the most painful part just because my fabric kept sliding, the stitching just took forever, and it ended up being a little bit bumpy, but overall I was really happy with the decision to do fabric instead of paint for this. I think it turned out really well, and I like the look of it way more than I did the paint. After the brim was all stitched and secure, I called a friend who had a Cricut, and she went ahead and cut out all these little stars for me, and they look amazing. They're all uniform, and I was really glad with the choice to go with the holographic. I also used some white scuba fabric to do this little white decorative trim you see here. I just did some scallops on it and stuck it on. After this, I went ahead and got to beading. She has these white, yellow, and blue beads that wrap around her hat. So I just went to my local Walmart and got some beads that caught my eye and started stringing them up. This was definitely the easiest part, as I just went ahead and strung these together and then shoved them on the hat, so it was relatively simple. Finally, it was time to make the flower. Now, what I did for this was that I basically took long pieces of foam and cut little arches on the top of them. I'll kind of show a diagram of what I did on screen. I glued these layers all together in a big old circle. I just rolled it up, and then I went ahead and coated it with Plasti Dip and then a white spray paint, and what you see me doing here is the final red spray paint. Now, most likely I will go in later and add some shading, but for now, I wanted to show you the finished product. because the hat is done. It is ginormous, it is detailed, it is beautiful. I had so much fun making this hat. There are a few things that I'll need to finish up, like some seams or cutting some loose threads, but overall, it is finished. I am so excited to make the next part of Meiko's outfit, and I hope that if you're watching this video helped you also make a hat that is the size of your torso. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.